Hello, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar. Today is part 2 of a two-part series discussing the features of the Charities module within your software. So great to see you joining us today, so thank you very much. If you haven't attended the first session, don't panic. We are going to talk a little bit around some of the features and just show you where you can find the recording for session 1 if you do wish to catch up, but nothing that we are going to cover today is dependent on watching that previous session, so please don't panic. Just before we begin though, we're just going to do some housekeeping. So if you are new to these sessions, you won't have seen this slide before, so apologies if you are a regular attendee. But what you will notice is that you have been placed on mute, and that's just to prevent you talking to us directly during the session today. Some of these sessions can get quite busy, so we don't want everyone talking over one another. So you will see it's in mute, but that shouldn't impact your ability to hear us today. So if you do start to experience any sound issues, we do recommend leaving and then rejoining the session. That should hopefully resolve your settings there. We do have time for questions, so please do submit your questions across to the team. Now you can do this by using the icon that looks like the speech bubble. Inside there's the question mark, and that will open up the questions panel, and you can submit your questions across to us today, and we'll try and answer as many of those as possible. We do have Ryan on hand today, who is going to be purely on questions, so he'll be able to answer those throughout the session. So please don't feel you need to wait till the very end to submit your questions there. We will try and share as many of the answers as possible, depending on what kind of questions we do get submitted across to us. So please bear that in mind when you're submitting your questions. Please don't put any personal information into your questions there. And finally, there is a handout for today's session. So if you do want to download that, it is available throughout the session today. The icon for that looks like a document with a folded corner, and that will give you the slides that we're going to go through today. We are going to do some live demonstration today, however, and if you do want to catch up on this again, so if there's a feature that you want to sort of look over again, that recording will be available later on this week for you to watch back over. Okay, so just before we begin, we are going to do a couple of polls. We're trying to use these sessions to try and get a little bit of insight from our customers as well. So I do have 2 questions for you today before we jump into the content. The first one, I'm just going to ask you around whether or not you've got the Charities module actually activated. So you should see that appear on your screen in the next moment or two. So just want to know if you're currently using the Charities module or not, or is it something you're new to or considering for further down the line? So I do like to wait till we've got around 70% of you voted, and there is a slight delay on the poll as well, so it may just take a moment or two for that to come across. And just waiting for those to come through, and there they come, thick and fast. So just give that a moment. Very interesting. Getting towards the 50-50 split, so very interesting there. And we've just hit the magic 70. So I'm just going to close the poll. Don't worry if you haven't been able to pop your answer across there. But basically, at the moment, 48% of you are currently using the Charities feature, and another 52% of you haven't yet activated it in your software. So it's potentially something that you're looking at using in the future. Final poll, and this is not relating to Charities. We're trying to improve these webinars for our customers. And one of the things we're looking at is the length of time that we run these webinars for. So I do just want to know from you, what is the ideal length of time for you to attend a webinar? So consider the time you've got to take out of your day, attention spans, etc. What's the ideal time? So I've got 4 options there for you on the screen. And again, if you could just pop your answers across, because we appreciate everyone's busy, and we're looking at doing smaller topics and smaller slots, but want to know if that's going to work for people. So again, there's a slight delay on the system there. Just wait for those to come across. And there we go, they all come at the same time. Fabulous. And again, we're approaching the magic 70. So again, thank you very much for your input. We really do appreciate that to help us improve the service there. So we've hit the magic 70, so I'm going to just close that again. And just to share that with you, just so you can see what everyone's voted for. So at the moment, our sessions do tend to be 30 to 40 minutes long, so 64% of you quite happy with that. 19% of you would like it slightly shorter, and 17% of you slightly longer as well. So thank you very much for your input there. That's great. Really do appreciate any feedback as well. Okay, so I'm just going to hide that. We'll just pop you back onto the PowerPoint. Okay. So what we're going to cover today, we're just going to do a very brief recap of part one, just so you know what you've missed. And I'll also show you where you can find that recording. So if we don't cover something today, it may be that it was in session one for you. But today we're going to focus mainly on gift aid. So how to set up gift aid in your software, how to record donations, which are include gift aid, and then also going to look at the gift aid small donation scheme. And we'll just finish it off by showing you how you can produce reports to help you make your submission to HMRC. Okay, so we've just done the polls. So first of all, our quick recap from session one. So as you're probably aware, if you're a charity, there are different reporting requirements. So with Sage 50 Cloud Accounts, if you do activate charities within settings and company preferences, we can have the charities module, which means that we do have different reporting abilities within the software, and it gives us some additional features to assist with that reporting as well. So it helps us produce things like the SOFA report, but it also gives us features like funds, SOFA categories, and also gift aid that we're going to discuss today. So I mentioned SOFA categories and funds. They were covered in part one. Okay, so if you do want to catch up on part one, there is going to be a link in your follow-up email today, and you can see there a little screenshot of what it looks like on that link where you can find charities part one. You can watch it in your own time. But in there we cover the funds, the SOFA categories, and then how both those SOFA categories and those funds contribute to the SOFA report. Again, if you do have any questions, so please fire them across and we'll try and answer those for you. What we would have also covered in the last session is very briefly touched on donations. So this is a new transaction type that we have within the software once the charities feature is enabled, and that is the donations option. So I'm going to demonstrate this in a moment for you in the live data. And what we're going to do is just show you what a donation looks like when it's posted as a transaction, but also link that into gift aid as well for you. So great question has just come across there is what is SOFA? So that is a report that you will be required to do. It's this statement of financial activities report. So rather than a profit and loss, this shows your income and expenditure as part of a charity. And if I get a moment at the end, I will see if I can show you that report for you. Okay. So what we're going to do first then is look at gift aid, and then we'll do a little bit of a demonstration there for you. Okay, so gift aid, you're probably familiar, even if you're not using the charities module, it's something that we all get asked for when we're making donations, etc., around whether or not we're eligible for gift aid. And you're probably aware that in order to provide gift aid on your donations, you do have to fill in forms or provide certain bits of information. So that does need to be recorded in the donor or the customer record. Okay, so what we will find is on our customer records, we have an additional donor tab. Okay, we're going to demonstrate that in a moment. And what we do need to do in there is enter the forename and surname of the individual. But we also need to make sure that on the details tab, we have the full address for that individual as well. If we don't have that information, we're not really meeting the requirements of gift aid. So it won't allow us to save the record as a gift aid record. Now, in order to obtain that, you will need to contact your customers or your donors to ask them to fill in a gift aid declaration. Now, you might have your own declaration forms elsewhere. However, if you wish to do so, we do actually have this available in the software for you to print off or email out to your customers so that they can fill that in and send that back to you. You do need to keep any declarations on record for 6 years after the last time you received a gift aid donation. So it is something you're going to need to store just in case you are ever audited by HMRC. Now, a question did come through to us prior to the session. So Geraldine, if you are joining us today, we have sort of included your question in today's session, and that is, how is Gifted identified if a £10 donation is for a restricted fund? So I have put a little demonstration on the screen there, but I'm actually going to show you this in the live data in just a moment there. So I'm just going to flick across onto my data set, so just bear with me while we do so. Just get the data set open. And apologies, just having a slight speed issue there. Right, okay, so that's us into the live data set there. Now, another quick question has just come across there, asking, can you just use the postcode rather than the full address? Now, from looking on HMRC website, you do just need the first line of the address and the postcode. However, I have had a play around with the software, and I believe it does need also the town on there as well. So it may not just allow it with the postcode to save the record, but we'll demonstrate that in a moment for you. Okay, so I am just in my in my charities module data set here. And within here, what we're just going to do first of all is just demonstrate what we need to do to the customer record. So I do have a couple of customers already set up with some demonstration data that we have filled in. I'm just going to go into donor 1 first of all. And what we can see there on the left hand side, we've got the option for donor because we're in the charities module. And within here, what I've had to do is pop in the details of the individual, but also relating to Geraldine's question there, we have also been able to assign a default fund for that individual. Now that can be changed when we're processing a transaction, but we can assign this at the point of entering the donor information. Now, if we have received a gifted declaration form, then we need to tick this box, and we also need to pop the date that that declaration was done. Now, if we try to post a transaction beyond this date, so from the 1st of October, it will apply gifted. If we try to post a transaction prior to that date, then it won't apply gifted. So it's important to make sure that particular date there is correct. Now, I mentioned earlier, if you are trying to sign up your customers for gifted, then what you will need to do is send out a gifted declaration to them. And there's 2 ways in which you can do this. The first is within your customers module, you have the option for letters. And if we pop into letters, just bring this one across. We have a choice of letters within the software. It's not a very highly used part of the program, but one of them in there is the gifted declaration letter. Okay, so you can use that to send that out to your customers. You can also locate it within the charities module. So I'm popping into charitable funds. Let's give that a second there. Everything's slowing down today. And within charitable funds at the top, there is also a gifted declaration. Now, both of them are identical, so it doesn't matter which one you use, work with which one works best for you. Okay, so what I just want to do now is just do a quick demonstration of processing a transaction with gifted applied to it. So mentioned earlier, if we're doing any donations, we do have the new donations feature within the software. So if I pop into bank accounts and under receipts, we have the option for donations. So I'm popping into donations there. And what I'll just do is I'll just select my donor 1. And immediately I've selected donor 1, it's automatically populated the fund, which yes, it can be changed if I needed to. And if I just pop in a value, and I'm going to pop in a value that makes it quite clear for today's session, so we can find that a little bit later. Just put 55 in there for an example. There's nothing here at the moment to indicate that that is gifted, but I know that when I produce my report later, because we've got that ticked, this will show on that report. So I'm going to pop that through there now. So hopefully that answers your question, Geraldine, that you sent to us earlier today. Sorry, it was earlier this month, in fact. So thank you very much for your question in advance there. Now, I just want to go back into that window. So we've saved that particular one, but I'm just going to go back in and into donations. Because what we do also have here, we'll notice on the very end here, is we have a small donation tick box. Now, donor 1, we know that we've received the gift aid declaration. We've ticked the box to indicate that that's the case. What we've got at the end of here is a small donation tick box. Now, I can't actually tick that at the moment, and I'm going to show you why in just a moment's time. Okay, but just bear in mind that one can't be ticked. So just going to head back to the PowerPoint for a moment. And great to see some questions coming across there. We'll definitely try and get through to them. I think Ryan's frantically trying to get those all answered for you, so we will try and answer as many of those as possible for you. So I'm just going to pop back to the PowerPoint for the moment. And we're now just going to very briefly talk about the gifted small donation scheme. Okay, so first of all, what is the gifted small donation scheme? It's very similar to gift aid, but in this case, you don't need to have received a gift aid declaration. Okay, it only applies to donations of less than £30, so it has to be a small donation, and it is limited, so you can only claim up to £2,000 in a tax year. You, as a charity, must also claim gift aid in that same tax year as well. Now, there are other requirements. That's not exhaustive, okay? So if you're unsure whether or not the gifted small donation scheme will apply to you, then please do check out the link that we've popped on the screen for you to find out a little bit more information about that. But today we just wanted to show you a little bit about what it is before showing you how you can process that in the software. So if you've checked and you are eligible for the gifted small donation scheme, then you will need to activate this feature in your software before this will work in your software. Now, this is found within your charitable funds window. And when you click on the option at the top, it's called the GASDS settings, then you can tick the first box, which will switch on the setting for you. Now, there are some values entered into here, and as you'll notice on the screenshot we've got there, they are greyed out, okay? Now, we do recommend that you do not amend these unless you've been instructed to do so by HMRC, because these tend to be the defaults that HMRC have informed us to pop into the software. Now, they can be amended if you're told to do so by ticking this box here, the one that says amend GASDS settings, and that will open the windows for you to alter those if need be. So what that does is that small donation box will then become active whenever you process a donation. So it has to be a donation transaction using a customer or a donor record that has not got the gifted tick box ticked. Okay, so it does have to be a donation, and it does also need to not have the gifted declaration ticked for that individual. So again, we're just going to demonstrate that for you, and we'll demonstrate the transactions in just a moment there. So we're going to pop back into the live data. Let's get the data set back up. Okay, so that is us into our charities module again. So just want to pop back into the donations option. And what I'm going to do, but bear with me, I'm just going to backtrack a little bit. I'm just going to go into customers because I do just want to show you customer 1 first of all. So customer 1 is obviously a customer record, but if we just take a look at their donor tab, you can see here I've added some additional information, but I haven't yet ticked the box for gift aid declaration received. So he's slightly different to the others because they have actually received a gift aid declaration. So I'm just going to pop back into the bank module. And remember, it's donations that we need to process. And if I select my customer 1, and I've got a value, I'm just going to pop a value of say £10 in. What you'll notice there is immediately, I don't even need to tick it, it's recognising that it is a small donation below the threshold, and also that we don't have a gift aid declaration. So it's already ticked that one for me. I'm then going to pop on another one for donor 1. And again, it's picked up the defaults for that. I'm just going to pop in a little value here, but notice again that small donation is greyed out. So it won't allow me to do gifted and gifted small donation scheme transactions together. Okay, so it's one or the other. So I'm just going to save those donations. And that's how it is, how simple it is to process those transactions. So if they've got gifted, then the box won't be ticked. If they don't have gifted ticked and it's below the threshold, then if you've got the settings switched on, then it will automatically tick the box for you. Now, what I do just want to do before we move on to reporting is show you those transactions that are produced as a result of a donation being processed. So I'm just going to go right to the bottom of my list and just highlight this. Okay, lots of people expect a bank receipt, so money into the bank account, just a BR transaction. But what it actually does when you post a donation, it actually posts two transactions. It posts an SI and an SR, and that's so it can record the whole transaction on the activity for that particular individual, but also it needs to pay it off. So we've got both the SI and the SR, and it doesn't matter whether that's a gifted or non-gifted, it's the same for both. So as you can see there, my customer that had no gifted is recorded here. Okay, keep going with the questions. Great, some questions coming across there, some points that we're going to take on board as well. So bear with us and we'll come back to those in just a moment. But what I do just want to do before we really go into the questions there is show you how to produce the reports for then reclaiming that gift aid. So again, we're just going to pop back onto the PowerPoint for just one moment. Okay, so for reclaiming gift aid, we have produced a report within the software. And this report will help you with doing your claim to HMRC. Now, this report includes both those that are gifted and also those that fall under the gifted small donation scheme receipts as well. So what you can see there, I'm going to produce it in my software so you can see that as well, is you can see at the top, those that have got the full details are the gifted transactions are grouped together, and then we've got the gifted small donation scheme receipts showing here. At the bottom as well, what we can see is the total gifted and the total small donations, and the combination of those is combined together. Now, there are instructions on our help centre on how to export this into different formats in order to upload this onto the HMRC website. So if you do need to find out a specific format, please do log on to the help centre. If you pop in the gifted declaration, or even just type in gifted, it will bring up articles relevant to gifted. But I'm going to show you now how we can run this. So back to the live data. Pop that on for you. So great question there is, will Sage automatically claim it? Unfortunately not. It doesn't do it automatically. It is a matter of you submitting this request to HMRC. There isn't a submission process similar to there is for VAT. It is something that you will need to use the software to extract that information and to send to HMRC. So to get this report, we need to pop it into charitable funds. And we do have reports at the top of the screen there. And in here, we've got charity reports. These are the ones that come as standard from the software. So in a moment, I will give you an opportunity to have a look at the SOFA report as well. But at the very bottom, we're just going to look at the gifted report here. So it's right at the bottom there. And if you want to, you can add it as one of your favorites. So I'm just going to generate that now. Now, obviously, you will specify a date range that you're doing your claim for. But today I'm just going to run this for an open date range just so I can show you absolutely everything there. I'll expand on there. So what you can see is it's changed slightly since my screenshot that I took a couple of days ago, and that's because of the additional transactions that we've submitted today. So we did post an extra transaction for Julie Watson of £22. As you can see, that's updated with today's date with the last donation that was received. And we've also got our gifted small donation scheme transactions showing down here, in particular the one that we just posted earlier on. So that is the report that you would need to run. And if you've got the gifted activated, then again, it needs the information along here, such as the house name or number and the postcode to do that. Okay, so coming towards the end of today's session, so I'm just going to put back on to the PowerPoint again for you, just to go through a slight summary, and then we'll see what questions we can pick up for you. Bringing those across. There we go. Okay, so just to summarise, if you are going to start using the charities feature, we do recommend you start it at the beginning of the financial year. Okay, so if it is something that you're just looking at the moment and thinking this might be a feature I need to implement, we always recommend doing it at the beginning of a financial year. Otherwise, looking at potentially rebuilding your data. Okay, so there is guidance online on that as well. So if you want, gift aid declarations can be created within the software. There was a question earlier about attaching those to a customer record. It is possible to add them into the record within your notes and memo. You can attach them there, but it is a manual process. If you want to activate the customer for gift aid, then you need to make sure that you fill in the donor tab. You need to also tick the box, pop in the date the declaration was received, and make sure that you've got the address details on record for that customer or donor. If you're using donations and the gift aid option is highlighted for that individual, then it will automatically apply that for you and pick that up on the report. And you can activate gift aid small donation scheme if you meet the requirements that HMRC have stipulated. And finally, gift aid small donation scheme can be applied to transactions providing you're using the donations feature. Okay, so it won't appear in other transactions. It has to be using the donations feature. Okay, just before we go on to the questions there, Ryan is trying to work his way through them there, so please do bear with me, he's doing a fabulous job. I do just want to talk about some of the upcoming webinars. So what we've got coming up next week, we've got some around VAT. Now, they don't necessarily apply to charities as often, so we do have VAT, but a great one we're doing next Wednesday is all around how to use the filter and quick search within your software. Really for reporting purposes, you can use it to export data to Excel. So it's a really good one that can have some quick wins. So that particular one is on Wednesday next week at 2 p.m. We're going to be looking at filter and quick search. If your charity is registered for VAT, then we do have a session on Tuesday at 2 p.m. and on Thursday at 2 p.m. Two different VAT sessions if you're wanting to join those. We've got some great content coming up over the next few weeks as well. November the 10th is International Accounting Day, so we will be doing something more interesting on that day around management reports, but we're also going to do a Sage 50 quiz. It's the first time we've tried it, trying to bring a little bit of fun, but also learning together at the same time. Now, we also have membership. It might be something that you've heard if you've joined our previous session, but Sage membership is something that you do have access to as part of your Sage cover contract with us. And it allows you access to free Sage content. So lots of people don't realize that this is actually free for you. So Sage University is a learning platform where you can log on and you can access free content. You can get yourself certified in Sage accounts, Sage payroll. There's lots of content on there for you to have a look at. So if you want to access that, you can access it through sageu.com. In addition, we also have Sage City. So Sage City is a great platform for forums, but also for submitting your ideas around more features. So if you do have a feature that you would love to see in the software for charities, then by all means get onto Sage City, get it submitted. And what you can also do is vote on other people's. Okay, so if they've submitted an idea and you think it's great, pop on a vote. And it is something that we do look at when we're looking at ideas for the new versions. Version 28.1, we implemented a lot of changes based on feedback from our customers. Finally, we've got the Sage Masterclasses. Okay, so season 1 of our masterclasses had a lot of videos which are provided by externals talking about different topics. Season 1 was all themed around world-class onboarding, nurturing talent within your business, and also retaining talent as well. Now, season 2 was launched last week. Season 2 is all around productivity. So you'll be able to find content all around increasing productivity within your business. So sage.com/UK/masterclass will take you to those masterclasses. If you do want to find out more around what's included in your membership and how to log on and access these great features, then we are doing a session on the 10th at 11 a.m. And again, it's on our link that we'll send over to you after today's session. So please do check out those future sessions. Okay, so I'm just going to put myself on mute in a moment just so we can have a look through those questions and see if we can get those answered for you. And if there's any I can bring to the group or demonstrate for the group, then I certainly will do. If you are leaving though, if you're not hanging around for questions, then thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you again on another session real soon. But again, we have lots of content coming up. We really do hope that you will join us. So I'll put myself on mute, but we'll be back before we end the session today. Okay, so Ryan's done a great job, answered pretty much all of the questions. There's just two that I'm going to pick up myself there. A quick question, and I'll be honest, it's not one I've tested, so I'm not sure. And I'm going to test this one for you. Now, we'll come back to you on this one. It's will it automatically, once you've ticked the small donation box, will it do that until the threshold is reached? And after that, will it stop applying it? So I'm going to double check that one for you. So if you just watch out for an email coming from me today or tomorrow, I'll confirm that one for you. It's something I need to test. And another one there was, we claim gift day quarterly and small gifts once a year. Is there two separate reports, or would I have to create separate reports? At the moment, there is just one report, unfortunately. So you would need to run that same report when you're doing it for your gifted small donation scheme. Ignore the gift aid part at the top. Maybe a really good idea for Sage City to get that submitted to the team. It might be something that they'll take into consideration down the line, or it might be something you can create if you're familiar with report design. Okay, I'm just going to pop back on a mute for another moment or two. So if you've got any final questions, please do get them across to us, and we'll get those answered for you. So just a final call for any questions there. Okay, quick couple of questions there. Apologies, Deborah, I did say I would show you the sofa report. I will come to that in just 1 second. Yes, sorry, that must have slipped my mind. I do apologise for that. First of all, got a quick question around the demo data. Okay, not able to access those features on demo data. So you do need to enable it even in your demonstration data. That can be done in settings, company preferences, and in there we've got the option, third one down, to enable charity/non-profit options, and that's under parameters. Okay, so if you do want to check that one out on the demo data, you will still need to activate it there. I'm just going to look back into my charities data because we need to have data in it for the SOFA report to work. Okay, so I'm just going to log back in. Bear with me 1 moment. So if you try and run this with no data in, it won't really give you any of the fields. So it's difficult to look at. So you do need to be starting to use funds and SOFA categories for this to show. Bear with me. Okay, so if we pop into reports again under the charitable funds and charity reports, and we have a few different versions of the SOFA report. This one here, so it is in here called Statement of Financial Activities. So I'm just going to generate that and just leave again the date range wide open, just so it picks up from my data set. And just to show you there what that looks like. Okay, so at the top you've got your income, and at the bottom you've got your resources. Now these are based upon your unrestricted funds, restricted funds, and endowment funds. So if you want a bit more information on those, please do check out the first webinar. But we also have the SOFA categories down the left-hand side. Now these can be tweaked, the names can be changed on here. So there is a really good question there. Or it's not really a question, it's more of a sort of feedback, is around if you are considering updates to the charity module, can you recommend that the SOFA report be completely reviewed against what charities have to produce on SOP 2015? I.e. transfers between funds. That's a great one. So I would definitely recommend to get that one onto Sage City. So if you can log on to Sage City and pop that on, and then if the rest of you agree with that, please do pop on some votes. Because I would say that this report probably hasn't, had any amendments for the last few years popped on there. So please do pop that in. Okay. So that's the SOFA report. If you want to take a look at that, like I say, you'll need to pop some transactions in. There is a copy of that in the slides for the first session, which obviously if you do need that, you can drop me an email and I'll get that sent over. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll leave the session there. I think we've answered pretty much all of them. There might be a few outstanding ones. I do apologise if we haven't managed to get round to them all. Thank you very much for joining us though. If you do have any outstanding questions and you do want an answer, you can always use the help centre. Or you can also, if you really need to, you can contact our technical support teams as well. Or if you want to, there is an email attached to this webinar. You can submit it to the team that way. In the meantime, one question just come through around questions and answers. Now, we'll just answer this particular one because unfortunately we don't have the ability for you to download the questions. You will need to copy and paste them from the window onto a separate document, but it is something we're working on. We did have a session yesterday where lots of people were asking the same question again. And what we're going to be doing going forward is using Sage City to produce the frequently asked questions. So again, just another good reason for signing up to Sage City again. Okay, in that case, thank you very much everyone for joining us. Really appreciate you joining us again, and I really do hope to see some of you again on some of our future sessions. So thanks very much everyone. Take care and goodbye.